Jim writes in, how do you overcome cliques as it pertains to getting into special assignments and promotions? This is one of Tommy's favorites.
That's it. So obviously there's the ins and the out groups, right? So the way I always say to permeate that is to simply, you have to be willing to go and seek out the information and make yourself a part of it. I'm proud to say that, if you sit back and just expect things to be given to you, or you expect to be offered, the avenue to get into these groups, it's not going to happen. We're bad at that, right? We don't do a good job too much when it comes to recruiting because your finger has to be on the pulse, and that takes time and energy to know your people. So like anything else, how do you, become a part of a group? How would you become a part of a group before you got into law enforcement? Because you want to be a part of that group. Now, again, I always say this, though. Look who the circle is. Do you want to be part of that circle? You got to be careful. Sometimes when you assign yourself certain commonalities because a group does a certain type of work, but look who you're going to be associated with. That could be your detriment. You hang out, at the barbershop long enough, you get a haircut, right? So I'm a big fan of creating my own groups, but having those groups be diverse in personality and skill set. Those are the best groups, not just for production. That's always where our brains go to when we talk about supervision and leadership, is right into production, right? How do I become part of that group? Why? For the raise, for the promotion, for the assignment. I would say this, there's only so many opportunities to be given. I'm in a position now where I wish I could give 30 opportunities a year. It just doesn't, through attrition, everything, through retirements, through openings and vacancies, the world doesn't work that way. So do that type of work that the group is doing, and it will be recognized. But you have to be proactive, not in how you work, but how you market yourself, how do you advertise yourself. A lot of this goes back to, it sounds like a broken record, but it's incumbent upon the person. It's choices you make and how you want to be. But I always say, don't worry about being the next Dennis Benigno. Be the first you. Make your own way. Make your own way of doing it. And I mean, that's the coolest way to be.
Wait, do you actually say the Dennis Benigno? Is that you're using me regularly? No, just now. I was the example because I'm in front of your face.
You just
that son of a bitch. To go back on that, just to revisit that subject. Hopefully, I lose my train of thought. I actually meant to have a notepad and paper here, so because my mind is off in 19,000 directions every single day at once. The clique thing. I like the idea of encompassing the job as a whole and being somebody who's universal from clique to clique. Now, what I wanted to say was in regards to this, life isn't fair. And I say this in class a lot. Life isn't fair. And if you think life isn't fair, police work's about 10 times more not fair. There'll be times in your career where you deserve something or somebody else deserves something that they got or you should have gotten. Yep. And this is how it goes. Why? Because it's politics, nepotism, unfair treatment, and it's rampant. And it does, and it's not everywhere, but it's in a lot of places. And there is actually no nepotism at this company. Actually, I'm so adamantly against it because I've been such a victim of it for so many years. And I'm not sitting here saying that I deserved everything that I asked for, because I didn't, because I did misbehave at times. I did not deserve certain things, but other things I did. And it's so much so that it got recognized and almost forced. That if you didn't do this, it would be really bad, right? Roller coaster of a career, just the way it goes. And what I could tell you is, once you release yourself from this constant chase of how you envisioned your career, and you could say, look, every day I go to work and I do something that I love. And you know what? They didn't pick me for the canine guy this year. I didn't get to go on the interdiction team. They didn't pick me for street crimes. Oh, it's effed up that so-and-so's daughter got picked for this and I didn't, and got moved around, blah, blah, blah. All these things. When you can release yourself from that and say, you know what? I don't care. I like this job. When I stopped chasing the carrot midway through my career, life got easy. You guys say, yeah, I would go to trainings and there'd be 6 guys from my PD at $300-$400 training courses that I paid out of pocket, paid for my own hotel room, and took my own vacation time for that. They got to come on the house, per diem food, and I was 5 times the production that they were, and I just didn't get angry with it. Right? I laughed because I chose me. They didn't choose me. I'm not waiting to get picked. Yeah. I am not waiting to get picked.
But that also establishes a ton of credibility for you as you move up. I had to learn the hard way. I say this all the time. I'm a recovered jerk when it comes to woe is me. And yeah, it comes with maturity. I used to 100% be the first one to say, why not me? Why not me? I deserved it. I was the better pick, because we all view ourselves that way, right? But man, do you establish a ton of credibility when how you react and persevere through trials and tribulations, right? You establish that credibility because you're going to be in a situation then moving forward and have to counsel somebody when they didn't get what they wanted. So when you have that personal, equity that you could say, hey, listen, this happened to me too. And it wasn't fair when it happened to me. It doesn't taste good. You're not going to be happy about it. I get it. But trust me, there's 10 more times eyes on you on how you're going to react to not getting it compared to how you react when you have a blessing, right? Nobody says, why me, when they win the lottery. Nobody says, oh, I'll have to pay taxes. Instead, everybody always thinks that they're getting gypped instead of counting the blessings that they have right in front of them.
Yeah, and you know what? You are not in charge. You're not in control. You have signed it over to this police department, and unfortunately, when you do take it, they are in control. It is not a fair place to work.
Nope.
And I often say in class, how many people work at an agency where it's fair to get promoted, and nobody raises their hands ever? And I said, and I say, that's what the point I'm trying to make. When you already know that the game is stacked against you, right? SOPs weren't designed to help you; they were designed to hurt you. They nothing about an SOP. Nobody's ever read SOPs and knew how to do the job, right? It's just the way it goes. It's very, very infrequent.
But we've created it.
Yeah,
we've created that environment.
Yeah, that's right, and that's the culture. And people want to know why this and why we can't get people. Of course you can. Like, look what you've done. And are you? And the last thing I have to say before we continue to end or progress to the end here is: are you helping or are you hurting? Which one are you? Are you acting selfishly or are you acting selflessly? Which one is it? You got to make a decision. Does it really matter that you get the same paycheck every 2 weeks, or does it matter that people are going to remember you as the person that they appreciated or the person that they hated? There are people that I worked with that have since then retired, and you hear about two people when you leave a police department.
Yeah.
The biggest AH there ever was and the greatest guy or girl there ever was. So you get two people that are remembered, and I mean, it's carried on for decades. We still hear about the guys from '86 who were the biggest AHs. Oh, he was the worst.
Yep.
This guy, I like when that guy got asked to leave. Thank God. Who are you trying to be, and why are you okay with that? If you are the bad, how does somebody personally live with being the bad guy? And don't lie to yourself. And I used to have a guy that I used to work for. He used to go, being a captain's it's a tough gig, and I got to make some decisions that are unpopular with folks at times. I go, well, you're also effing everybody over all the time. So like, you can keep telling yourself the story you think you want to hear, but everybody in this place knows you're full of shit, and you can't hide that, right? Like, so that was his big excuse. I got to do things that are unpopular at times. No, you could do a lot. You do nothing that's popular. There's nothing here that you've done that's popular.
Right. It's all a balance, right?
Yeah.
But leave a penny, take a penny, right? Those dishes. Which one do you do? Do you leave more of them or you take more of them? Are you leaving your thumbprint? When you talk about the guys that everybody remembers after long after they've left, it's because they're felt, right? They're felt in the fabric, and it's because they've left that influence on. They were worried about being a legacy, not leaving a legacy. So just be that legacy, and it's all about leaving more pennies than you take. And yes, there are unpopular things you have to do, but define popular. It's unpopular because we don't allow people into those perspectives. We don't allow them as stakeholders into that decision-making process. So what? Ignorance is bliss. I always say they let the threads go to their heads, and the rank becomes them instead of they become the rank. So I always caution against that, and it's just about we're in the business of people. You want to see, the public have a better perception of us. Well, then we should treat each other better first. It doesn't work the other way around.
Right, and dude, like, if you are somebody listening to this and this is ruffling your feathers and making you upset, we know who you are.
Yeah.
You can't hide it. You think in the state, let's take New Jersey where we are right now. You think we don't know what agencies are run by good supervision and what? It's no secret.
No.
Who's all messed up.
Yeah.
Who's run by lunacy, and you can just continue to tell yourself the same story.
Yep.
Oh yeah, they don't know. They're not this. They're not. They don't know. Yeah, those guys over there at Street Cop. Who are you crying to? Who are you trying to profess your story to? The only people you're going to find are going to listen are your other friends that are misbehaving in the same. We watch it. You watch in this profession who gravitates toward another. You've got people from this company who are, in my opinion, some of the greatest humans that I know. in this profession. And then you look at other places and you can tell when they migrate together. They're fake to each other. They're backstabbing. They're talking shit about other police training companies. You can't hide your true colors.
No.
You can decide to change. You just can. You can make an effort to change. And don't kid yourself if the effort's half-assed. I'm talking about a full effort. Don't half-ass the effort. So the question I have for you again is, are you part of the solution or are you part of the problem? Are you selfless, or are you selfish? Who are you and how are you behaving? It's not easy to be selfless, right? Because there's no immediate ROI on it. But I can promise you this. The long-term ROI on selfless behavior, it's paramount. I mean, I can't express to you enough as things run through my head. Up front, my loss. Long-term, my gain.
100%.
Right?
But also, I mean, hurt people, right? So you have to get over the fact that you might have fallen down and scuffed your knee once or twice. It takes that humility and that empathy to tell the next guy in line, hey, watch out, that step's uneven. Instead of this culture of, well, I went through it, so I hope he goes through it. That's how, because let me tell you, it's a lonely feeling, a feeling of despair when your career is over with. We all have that shelf life. I know I sound like a broken record with that, but it's the fact. When then you ring the phone and nobody wants to answer because they couldn't wait for you to get out of there. As far as I'm concerned, I want to, leave that thumbprint so that when, this part of my life is over, it'll still be that there's that connection there. And how do you do that? By making the connections now, not worrying about, until it's too late and how you can make somebody's day miserable just because you can. Same mentality we talk about all the time about the decision to write a ticket over not writing a ticket, right? You're still doing your job by stopping the person. You don't have to always go that extra step. We always misdiagnose supervision and management and leadership, always with a sanction. I say, if your disciplinary and your sanctions and your consequences and your reprimands outweigh your accommodations and your attaboys and your good jobs, you're doing something wrong. And it's because you're battling your own demon. Maybe that didn't happen to you. It comes a time in everybody's life you got to turn the page. So again, do you want to represent that change? You can. And I deal with a lot of people now, especially ever since joining with Street Cop, that they reach out to me privately. Oh, well, but how do I do that? There's a fear there because there's a fear of failure, and I get it. But let me, as we wrap this up, let me tell you, rest assured that people will respect an attempt over any day over the week over a failure to ever try. They will respect the attempt every time, the fact that you at least tried.
Now, listen. Again, this is a company at its core that is focused on fixing the problems. Yeah. Are we going to fix them all? Probably not. But are we having impact and change? Yes. And this is a big conversation to have, and it really does start at this level. You want to start fixing things. You want to sit there and complain that are you part of the problem or are you part of the solution? And in order to be a solution giver, somebody who's going to be solving problems, you have to open your mouth. You have to take some action in a proactive way to begin to implement a new culture. And that is not based on the old culture, unless the old culture was something great, which it probably wasn't. There's just a different way it's done now. And when we can get some people don't like this, but eventually I can tell everybody, we get this in class, you should tell my captain, you should tell my lieutenant, you should tell my chief that. And I respond with, I am telling every captain and chief and lieutenant and sergeant right now. They're just not there yet, but they will be. And we've seen it here in New Jersey 8 years ago when I started opening my mouth and the mud was coming my way and ducking fruit and tomatoes and vegetables and car tires. I just kept going at it. I was tenacious. I ignored the noise. And now we have all those people who were there listening 8 years ago who are your chiefs, captains, lieutenants. You know what's happening? That's what's happening. Not everywhere, but enough. Enough of messages from chiefs that say, I was there when you started talking. I loved your message, and I'm here now. Now you got some big boys in your corner. Yep. And we do. And we've won the hearts and minds of a lot of this state, a majority of the state. The ones we haven't won, I don't try to sell to people who are unsellable. I don't try to cry on deaf ears. We'll just wait you out. You ain't going to be there forever. And then the next person who comes along, if I can get in their ear and they're going to be the part of the change that matters, well, then my job has been accomplished.
But always there to help.
Right.
Never turn around and say, oh, sorry, just because you're not, wearing one of these shirts. The door's always open. And I think that's what separates us is that ability to, we answer the phone, we answer the messages, we answer the questions. And it's not about, nickel and dime anybody. It's because your heart's in the right place. I think that's what separates it, and that's a culture thing that I think is contagious, and contagious in a good way. I don't think that the majority of us and the supervisors and the leaders and the chiefs, they're not bad people. A lot of them were just never shown the way.
Right.
And change in our industry is something that's not something that comes about easy. And I get it. I recognize it, as you do, I'm sure, before I did by doing this game. This is, it's definitely not the norm. It's far from tradition. And what do we find with tradition? A safety net. Doesn't mean it's efficient. Doesn't mean it's productive. I tell you, I mean, I'm out to just have it where as you're reaching toward the end of your shelf life in your career, you feel like you have a little bit left in the tank, not that you're totally depleted.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we both have about this. Actually, we just talked about this last night at my house.
Yeah.
We both started our law enforcement careers about 3 weeks apart.
Yeah.
So in 2001, Tommy and I both started. And, you got 20 years. You're a big thinker. You've been putting a lot of thought into things. You've observed. You've helped. You've been part of the solution. And so, it's time to start being part of that solution and saying the things that you need to say. So,
yes, sir.
Without further ado, I have nothing else. Tom Rizzo, very good friend of mine. Thanks for being here, Tom. And we'll have him back again. Your questions, keep them coming in. And this was episode 1 of the Street Cop Podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.